The neighborhood had a flavor. It had a character, all its own.
I remember when the temple was open, there was a school here, buildings here.
Lots of kids, running around, jumping around.
It's the only place where you can buy anything, do anything 24 hours a day.
Lots of drugs.
In this neighborhood, one guy had a gun. That's it, huh? Hey, Jesus, that kid's got a gun.
They take your life in your hands.
It's been wonderful living here. We have the whole household to ourselves.
I was robbed 37 times, hit over the head with a baseball bat, got 14 stitches in my head.
24 hours a day, that block is safe.
It's always they protect the block, protect the block, protect the block.
I think the Lower East Side is a family neighborhood, and that's what I think the glue is that's held this neighborhood together all these years.
We had a great childhood.
That was an empty lot. I mean, we could sit in there with a bonfire.
People could just walk by the street, you could say hello, and they say hello back.
The people, it's not the ghetto, it's the people.
We help one another, sometimes.
I shot a kid here one day. He threw his stuff, I fixed him up, he'll never do that again in his life.
My dream is to get up out of here.
If we go somewhere else, we ain't gonna know nobody. I don't want to leave LES.
I've left at times, but it always draws me back. This is my neighborhood. This is my home.
There was this woman who lived on my street. Her name was Jackie. She used to sit on her stoop. She talked to everyone who walked by. And one day, she told me something that I will never forget. She said, Josh, there are two ways to learn about the world. One way is to travel all over the planet, see all the different lands. And the other way is to stay in the same place. Jackie stayed in the same place, and so have I. And that place is 7th Street, between Avenue C and D and the Lower East Side of Manhattan, Alphabet City. And Jackie was always there, right on that stoop. And when she died about 10 years ago, a part of the neighborhood died with her, and I started to realize that one day the block that I knew as a kid growing up was going to be gone forever. I'm talking about the people, the people who taught me about life, the people who became my family. I wanted to make a history of my block to honor my family, my blood family, and my street family. In 1992, I got a camera and started shooting. Making this movie was a way for me to hold on to something before it became something else. But the more I shot, the more I learned that 7th Street has always been a place of change, right from the beginning. To start out, before the 1840s, my block wasn't even here. This area was a salt marsh. As New York's population grew, the demand for housing increased, the marsh was filled in, and the block went up. And by the turn of the century, 7th Street had become the happening place for the immigrating Hungarian Jews. Before I found this out, I thought I was the first Jew on 7th Street. Anyway, by the 1960s, when I arrived, the neighborhood had become a ghetto, abandoned by the city. Only the people with nowhere else to go lived here. Let me tell you how I ended up here. That's my dad, He was born in Amsterdam, and he was the last Jew to get a PhD before the Nazis overran Holland, a PhD in physics. In March of 1945, he was captured and put in a Gestapo prison. The war soon ended, and he survived with no physical scars. After the war, my dad was invited by Robert Oppenheimer to the Institute for Advanced Studies in Princeton, New Jersey, and that's where he worked with Albert Einstein for close to 11 years. So, there was this party in 1956, and that's where he met my mom. She was a country girl from Iberia, Missouri. At the time they met, she was a floor model at Bergdorf Goodman's and Saks Fifth Avenue. She was a free spirit and an artist to be. Well, they got married, and then I came along. Now, my parents couldn't have been more different from one another. My father, the scientist, approached the world looking for order, while my mother, the emerging poet and painter, embraced all that was eccentric. It didn't work. My parents divorced. The agreement was, my father would pay for my education, and then some. My mother had to cover the rest. She couldn't. That's when we moved to 7th Street. The year was 1967, and I was the new kid on the block. Here's my dad.
You and your mother needed more space, and your mother had an opportunity, thanks to these very nice people who live across the street from you, to move in an apartment in 7th Street, and there you were. And I came on a visit. And I was really rather taken aback, because at that time, the street looked like a mess. It was dirty, it was messy, and it was just, it made me very uncomfortable. I mean, I live, as you know, in a very bourgeois kind of neighborhood. I'm an uptown Upper East Side person. My soul is not, but my residence is. I went home, I said, this is really all my fault, and you know how it goes with divorced parents, and so on.
On the weekends, my father would pick me up, and off I went to the moneyed world of the Upper East Side. In my dad's world, I dressed for dinner and listened quietly as Nobel laureates discussed the evolution of the universe. Then it was back to 7th Street, where I dressed like this and listened quietly as musicians and junkies discussed the evolution of the universe. In my mom's world, there were no boundaries. I could do anything at any time. People were always showing up, and spontaneous performances often erupted right in the living room. But out on the street, it was another world. It was a dangerous world, and I was an outsider. But I soon learned to rely on the people of 7th Street to teach me how to survive. That's May. She's married to Ray. They were the reason I came to 7th Street, friends of my mom and our first landlord. May is a choreographer who had danced with Martha Graham, and Ray is an accomplished composer. They were always full of stories. They often told me of terrible things that they'd witnessed on our block. It was the gleam in their eyes that somehow made me feel I was safe.
It was just in the air. Everything was, boiling up at that period. It's sort of reached a point now where it's under violent control. I mean, you just know everything's violent, kind of. But then it was bubbling up, and it seemed to be more noticeable. And one morning, we were living down in the basement then. We hadn't fixed this place up. Actually, this place was a mess for quite a few years. And I looked out the back window, and there's a big old tree out here.
And next to that big building there.
And I looked at it and I said, wait a minute. that doesn't look right. Is that a branch? And suddenly I realized a head, arms, and a body in the trunk of the tree, just hanging.
And one of the Ys, the big branches.
Over the night, either thrown from the roof.
Yeah, from the roof.
Because there was a lot going on in the building.
Oh boy! Oh, it was well.
It was
even
unbelievable.
Today,
it was
I can
really,
tell you a
truly
real
strange
story.
fruit.
You were here, and I was here.
Right.
Angel lived one building west of me. He and his family were here when I arrived. He welcomed me to the block and introduced me to stoop ball, hide and seek in the abandoned buildings, and hosing down the girls with fire hydrants.
What about with the pumps? We used to take cans and scrape them until the bottom came out.
That's right.
And use it, man, to hose people down. Oh man, I forgot about all
Remember,
that.
Johnny and the pony?
Man, Johnny
Holding on the fence?
Yeah, a couple of guys and one guy jumps. He has to leap over there. It's like a horse. Get on a horse. Stick ball. We used to play stick ball. Oh man, we used to play that a lot, man. What about with tops? With tops, crack. Oh, Skelsies. Yeah. Oh God, man.
Those were the days. Those were the days.
That's what it was.
You think it's more like racially mixed than the rest of the city?
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss that.
Suki lived one building east of me. We were the only kids from this area who attended the private school Little Red. On the bus ride home, we sometimes stopped at Yona Schimmel's.
I want a blueberry knish, please.
We used to come here when we were little kids.
People come and say it was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
This is more than 6 or 7 years. Yeah.
When I was 7, we moved to 7th Street. Stan, my stepfather, was writing The Islands, which was his book about Puerto Rico and Manhattan and Puerto Ricans, living in both places. And so he was doing research, and, we were living between C and D.
And what were your first images or sensations about it?
It was the ghetto. We were pioneering in the ghetto. And at first we were kind of like the white people on the block. But then there was a lot of crime, and there was, the police didn't do anything. And Stan helped to organize this neighborhood protection committee that was like, just neighborhood people. And so we became part of the community, and it was like this tiny little island of safety and neighborhood. I mean, I felt totally fine on 7th Street. But when I ventured outside of those bounds into the projects or wherever, like if I went to play on the swings in the projects, that was not my turf.
Now Manny knows all about turf. He's been defending his territory on the Lower East Side longer than anyone. He became the wealthiest man on the block, a self-made millionaire.
I moved on this block around 1945.
So you said you were a Lower East Side kid.
Yeah.
What was that like? What did it mean to be a Lower East Side kid?
Well,
I was a Lower East Side kid, but it's different than you. So tell me what it was like for you.
You didn't have to fight because you were a Jew. I lived towards Columbia Street, and Guard Street was all Italians. You ever notice the Guard Street pool? Got a big swimming pool there, and they didn't let the Jews in there. I didn't have no trouble going there. Me and my kid brother, we went there all the time.
Well, how did you manage to get in?
Well, that was easy. We went in there, and they found out, they could tell we were Jewish. You know how, I don't have to tell you. Jews are scared. They figured we were Jewish. They used to take our clothes and wet it and tie it up in knots. Then one time, me and my kid brother was a very peaceful guy. I was the nasty one. So we came one time, a couple of guys jumped in and they tried to drown us. So we took them down and we drowned them almost, till they made peace with us. After that, we had no trouble going there.
What do you think a Lower East Side kid is like today?
A sissy like you.
Come here. Come here.
East Side kids got no guts. They're not, only Puerto Ricans, they got knife, they want to pull a knife or anything. The average kid around here don't even know how to fight. They don't, well...
It's not an art form.
It was a survival form then, it wasn't an art form. You had to survive.
I've known Reno Thunder almost as long as I've known Ray and May. Reno! Who are you? His Native American heritage and charm led to many roles in commercials and movies. He was also one of my mom's lovers. We called his place the Penthouse.
Okay, gang. We're here.
Reno couldn't say no to a stray dog.
Come on, Carlito. And these are my babies, my family. They didn't have a home, but now we do. That's my babies. This is the Garden of Eden, you know. This is Babylon. I prefer to live with the devil instead of expecting him to come in my door. Here I can face him every day.
Hey, Manny, how you doing? Okay.
And Mickey is by far the sweetest part-time con I know.
Man, you want me to loan you a dollar? You need a dollar? I need a dollar. I'll lend you a dollar. Just remember where you got it from.
He grew up a block away from me in the projects, and then when we got older, I usually saw him when he was on a cigarette break from bartending at Vazak's on 7th and B.
Some people get rich. Some people wind up sleeping on the streets. I'm in the middle. I call myself a survivor. And I think that's good, because if you know how to survive, especially in Lower East Side of New York, you'll make it. You're never going to be rich, but you're going to make it. You know how to scam. You know who to scam. You know what to buy, what not to buy. You know who to talk to, who not to talk to. You don't have to be a thief, a liar, or a drug addict. You just have to survive, and I'm a survivor. I don't know how much longer I can do it, but you just do it day by day. And you have to believe in yourself.
I wasn't always living in the street or, you know, in a squat or anything like that. I've actually, obviously I went to college, right?
That's Merlin. He came here at about the same time I did. People think of him as the local sage. He calls himself the neighborhood greeter. He's always reading, always thinking, and always has something insightful to share.
I was 10 years old. I had run away from home, and I came here because I'd heard about the neighborhood, you know, the East Village, you know.
Did you hear about it?
Well, it was a sort of hippie, you know, counterculture mecca, and I hopped off the bus at Port Authority and asked directions here, and got here, and within 2 hours of being here, I had a place to live, a crash pad, as they say.
I don't know, maybe there was a bohemian enclave like the East Village somewhere else, but I doubt it. I think this was the center.
Yuri was one of the many artists who hung out in our apartment.
I remember things at your house. Your mom actually, she pulled a lot of creative people together just by her personality. People danced and people read poetry. There was a camaraderie, you know, because we were all poor as church mice.
My mom's house was a hangout for poets and painters and actors and hippies. I remember one guy would just sit in the middle of the living room meditating, and everybody walked around him as if he were a piece of sculpture. All kinds of people were coming and going, including my cousin Rex, who moved into my bedroom at the height of the Vietnam War. He needed a place to hide out.
He was AWOL. So he was there, but we weren't supposed to know he was there. Or we weren't supposed to talk about the fact that he was there.
Anything you remember about our house?
Yeah, I remember it was just a great place, and I met the great mime Marcel Marceau there. I met...
At my house?
Yep.
What was he doing at my house?
Well, he was acting like he was in a big old fucking cube or something. I don't know, dude, I thought he was pretty fucking weird, but everybody said, oh, hey, man. Everybody say hello to Marceau, or whatever the fuck his name is.
Rex was so vibrant, you know, it had this aura of illegality, like this cowboy aura about it.
That he was hiding out in our house.
Yeah. And, you know, your father having hidden out during a previous war and our mutual, you know, history in that regard made it so that it was particularly interesting, and we had to defend him.
Were you ever around when any of the FBI people?
Nuh-uh.
Two of them would come, they'd ring the buzzer, and Rex would get into the closet. They'd come into my room, and one of them would sit right across from me and then ask me questions about Rex, and you know, he'd kind of pick up a toy or pick up something and just kind of look at it really slowly, while the other one had his face, you know, right up to me asking me questions.
I mean, to be a kid in the village in the 60s was wild. I mean, we didn't even know what we were in the middle of.
I cherished the hippie love fest that was growing within our apartment. But as soon as I hit the streets, I got scared. There was a tension that I couldn't exactly identify or understand. Making this movie helped me figure it all out. See, I discovered that something happened down here before I came to the block, and I was feeling the aftermath. The Hungarian Jews who had been living on 7th Street for decades didn't just pick up and leave one day. There was a riot. In the 1950s, early 1960s, the population on my block started to change. Puerto Rican families like Angels and black families like Mickey's started moving into the area. Now, from what I understand, the Jews did not want 7th Street to change. Well, they learned the hard way that nothing remains constant on 7th Street. The riot happened in 1965, 2 years before I got here. When I started asking around, it turned out that nobody had exactly the same story about what happened. But those that were here remembered the event.
When we made a riot here, it was for a reason. It was because a cop killed an innocent kid.
What I remember from that, I had a cousin got killed coming on that riot.
You know, it was Spanish and against the Jewish people, like the same stuff that goes on. It's racial discrimination, which is nonsense to me.
They shot that guy from the roof.
Everybody went berserk.
The system died out, and everybody just started looting all over the place. I mean, it was chaos, believe me.
National Guard came in, everything. It was big, man.
And you literally ran the Jews out here because they were scared to death. Not that we're all muggers and thieves, but they were scared.
Manny was like one of the last holdovers.
Yeah, was one of the last Jewish guys.
We could come down here, sit on a stoop till 3 o'clock in the morning, nothing would happen. Now you gotta worry. Not that I worry. But I mean, you could walk through the streets here anytime, never have any trouble. After that, you couldn't walk. You want to say if you ride on a bus.
Hey, that was his turf. And he's seen it disappear. It's not there anymore.
Basically, back in the mid-'60s, you know, the city gave up on the neighborhood. It was dangerous, sure. You know, I mean, I had friends who would not come into my neighborhood. They would say, like, yeah, meet me on First Avenue. Yeah, it was kind of an armed camp, you know, for sure.
I haven't seen a cop for 3 weeks here.
In those days, 7th Street was like a war zone. Buildings were on fire all the time. I guess a little insurance money paid the landlord's bills better than collecting rent. And if the fire wasn't in a building, then it was out on the street. Here's us having a barbecue.
If you remember, there was a big shooting, 2 kids got killed, right on the corner of 7th Street.
You know, I always had this feeling that there was all this, you know, activity happening down here, but the city just tried to contain it, like east of First Avenue.
Well, everything, all the heavy action was always on this side.
Right.
Because 2nd Avenue has always been very low key.
But the police knew what was going on.
Well, of course, but they didn't give a shit. They figured, man, let them kill themselves. You know what I'm saying?
As the fires started dying out, new life emerged. And the new economy was drugs. The best place to score was 7th Street.
It started over there. A Jamaican man was selling marijuana 24 hours.
7th Street, your block.
What happened to the guy was he got killed. So the spot was by itself. So people that lived around here started selling weed on their own.
It was like a supermarket.
I mean, people were selling drugs here like water coming down from a river.
It was understood that the dealers ran things. Everybody down here knew what they were doing, but a real insider knew not to talk about it. There was a higher law here, the rules of the street. 1, treat the dealers with respect. And 2, never do anything they could interpret as a threat to their business.
Anything they do private with their lives is their business. I don't interfere, no one interferes. You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of like, you know, when in Rome you do as the Romans do, that kind of thing. If I wanted to survive here, I had to have them as friends. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to survive here. They would have gotten rid of me.
My wife, Laura, you know, and my son, Andrei, were held up on the gunpoint by a couple of kids. That's why she moved out of the neighborhood. That's why a lot of people moved out. And it transcended all the ethnic and racial lines.
The people on the block taught me to develop a kind of radar to detect danger. I had to be able to sense who was up ahead and who was behind. I think it was when I started feeling some safety amidst the violence that I first realized I had a new family in a sense. My street family. And they were looking out for me.
I see you going down the street, the guys are after you, you know I'm going to be behind you. That gives you 4 eyes, the eyes you have, and my eyes to watch your back. And that's what people should do, you know, to protect protect one another, you know? And that's the whole idea of unity, the circle of life, in other words, you know what I mean?
I had a funny one happen here one time. There was a guy from India living in the building, an old man. And one day I came out of my house and two guys were mugging him. So one I threw off the first floor, and the other one I wanted to kill. My sister wouldn't let me. That guy used to follow me around like a dog. He said, I owe you my life, you can do whatever you want with it now. He lived quite a few years, he used to bring me presents all the time. He was a nice old man.
There's a lot of people here that are really kind and generous. We may fight among each other, and I'm no different than anybody else. I get out there and I'll punch you about just like anybody else. You know, I mean, this is part of life. I don't know why, but it's part of life. I mean, but it's never really nothing. It doesn't amount to any violence or hatred. It just makes us closer. This is a thing of love. It's not a thing of hatred and rejection. It's really love here. There's a lot of love here, just in our own way.
I don't know if everybody is nostalgic about their childhood, regardless of what it was like, but those were my good old days. It was the neighborhood feeling. It was the connection between everybody that I feel nostalgic about. It was around the time that I started to feel at home on 7th Street that my father thought it would be best for me to attend one of the most elite schools in New York City, Dalton, on the Upper East Side, 89th Street off Park Avenue. Another world. A place where I saw my classmates arrive in limousines. My life involved crossing between different worlds on a daily basis. When I first came to 7th Street, I often felt like a white kid out of place. But by the time I went to Dalton, I felt my roots had become more Puerto Rican and black. And yes, I learned a lot at Dalton, but my real education came from my street family.
You can from the world. I mean, just get what you can from what's happening around you. You know, find the amusing things, find the ironic things, find sometimes the sad things.
I don't need a picture of her. I can just think of her, I can see her. Her flaming red hair, her beauty. You know, it's Mom.
My mom started struggling with cancer. Aside from being my mom, she was someone that was loved in the neighborhood. We were all devastated. The community put on one last huge show for her. She died a few months later. So, she was the one who brought me to 7th Street, and now she was gone. I had to make some decisions. Do I stay? Do I go? What? Well, I left. And thanks to my father, I was able to go to London, where I began my training to become an actor. 7th Street was behind me. I went to Hollywood and played one of Murphy Brown's secretaries. And then I hit the jackpot. I was offered a starring role in a major Hollywood movie. I was on top of the world. I was Raphael. Well, no one else in the business knew that it was me in the 70-pound costume. The work dried up for a while, except for a few parts like this. Cousin Gayla in Deep Space Nine. So I returned home, a beaten man, to the only place where I knew I would be accepted.
So what? So you wanted your title. Big deal. You fit in the neighborhood, your family, you come to. That's your life. That's your career. God bless you.
So I became the proud owner of a dilapidated apartment 2 doors away from where I grew up. The place was a mess, but I was home. My immediate family was gone. It was time to get caught up with my street family.
People started moving in, places started getting renovated and so forth. Come here, Billy. And they started getting renovated, you know? Like where your place, where your mama, when I met your mama. You know, that was an abandoned building when I moved in. You know? And gradually people started fixing up, or the landlords started doing what the hell they had to do in the first place, you see. And then people started hooking up, you know, you gotta hook up. And it became a neighborhood block.
You know, I don't know of anywhere else where there was such a racial mix of people. In the early days down here, this mix led to riots, but after all that we'd been through, people started realizing that the more they crossed racial lines and hooked up, the easier their survival became. Take Manny's new sidekick, William. They weren't exactly blood brothers, but they met every morning at 11 a.m. to do business.
What do we call ourselves? Recycling engineers?
Bottles, cans, and money.
Collecting it, packaging it, and delivering.
And getting the money.
Ready?
How come you have this guy working for you?
Cheap help.
And I didn't come over the border. I was born in Bellevue.
Self-slavery. He works for nothing. That's the only way I can afford to hire him.
At first it seemed that William was getting the short end of the stick here. But there was more to the relationship. William, born Catholic, was in the process of becoming a Jew.
Manny brought me here for Rosh Hashanah. When we first met, I was introducing myself as a person that believed, acknowledged, and accepted Judaism. And being of a Hispanic background, well, he was very skeptical about the whole thing. And well, we got into kind of a little bit of an argument. But he realized that I was quite adamant of what I was saying. I meant what I said. And gradually, I came to know him, and he came to know me, and we started to be together on a daily basis.
Hey, Willie, break it in the middle there. Any good, Willie? He's my partner. My partner in crime.
You're training him?
Yeah, I'm training. Well, I'm fighting him.
He's working up from a golem into a human.
Yeah.
So is this a good guy to work for?
Are you kidding? That's my grandfather. I never had one as a child, so he adopted me.
I had to convert him, otherwise I couldn't be his grandfather. Jewish blood. Okay, so I'll see you later, Willie.
I don't think you'll be here when I get back, will you?
No, I'm going downtown.
Time goes on.
Guy gets it. You know what that means? Oh, you don't know what that means? Go in good health and come in good health. It says guy gets it, that's Yiddish. That means go in good health. At least he ain't ashamed to work. That's one thing, the only Puerto Rican I ever met that works. that don't steal.
Oh man, yeah, I remember one time he walking down the block and he's like talking to himself, you know. And he's damn Puerto Ricans, goddamn Indians and black guys and all that for. Why don't they leave their beer cans in the block so I can pick them up? He was angry, so he could collect. And this man is the millionaire of the block.
I know that man is loaded. I think man's the type of guy who's something in his mattress.
That's John, Mickey's hookup.
So who you robbing now? No, I'm on my way down the old Bud Light here. Okay, John, you're full of shit. Who you robbing now? I'm not robbing anyone. Who are you conning now? I'm not conning anyone.
It was part friendship, part business.
See, he's a good con.
Tell me a con you did.
Hey, I never said I did. I don't think I did. You won't admit to it, but that's how we got 86. I don't admit to that. Hell no.
Well, just tell me one.
I have no idea what... If I tell you one not involving him, which is almost the same thing, would that make you...
Sure.
Okay.
I'll give you the lowdown. Here, I'm gonna give it to you real quick. People want drugs. They want them all the time, right? That's the American way. They want to fucking stuff them in their nose, no matter if it's coke, no matter if it's fucking heroin, no matter what it is, they want them, right?
So he walked around
I'll go and get them for them. They're fucking scared to go. They're scared to go get them themselves, and I'll go get them for them, right?
So he
Bottom
looks for
line,
customers.
it's no con. It's called service. You're scared.
It's called illegal.
You're scared to fucking go get it.
It's called
You're scared to
illegal.
go get it. I'll go get it for you. All right?
So you would meet somebody in here,
No,
and then
not necessarily. Anywhere. Doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be any
See,
specific place.
if you're born and raised in there, and if you've been around long as John has, you can tell who wants something, who doesn't. You can look at somebody long enough and say, that person wants something. So you just casually walk up to them, start a conversation. Next thing you know, you're out there on a mission buying them something, and you get paid for it.
Sure.
It's that easy.
Now Merlin had tried to hook up. He'd been married and had kids. But something happened, and now he was living alone on the street.
My wife and I went through a divorce, an amicable divorce. She had found someone that she thought she was in love with, and I said, well, okay, if you're happier with him, go, I left her the apartment. I went and I stayed in a hotel till I could get my own place. And she moved this other guy in. They lived together for a few months, and then he killed my son. And
this guy killed your son?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, he picked him up by his feet. He's 4.5 years old. Picked him up by his feet and beat him against a radiator. And he ended up with massive brain hemorrhage. Went into a coma, and he died about a day after that. I didn't know at the time exactly what happened. I went crazy when I found out. I was out searching for the guy with a gun. I didn't know that he was already in jail. I didn't care. If I'd known he was in jail, I'd have walked into the jail with the gun. All I knew was I just wanted, hey, what's up? Nothing much right now. So, I had a drinking problem before then, but not major. But I really started drinking after that.
were still hooked up, of course, and their union strengthened their careers as artists. They gave me hope that one day I too could have a great relationship.
He wants to know what's the secret that keeps us together. We both.
Well, you know, the funny part of it is, Ray was very happy to be part of what I did, you know, and did so many pieces for me, so many wonderful works, that became the paramount connection. But it turned out that we just loved each other on top of it. I believe in the power of the arts as a way of extension.
Yes, right.
Way beyond money and most of the things that most people get hung up on. When I hear Ray's music, I can enter into it and I can go beyond the moment of hearing it. I know that that's his core. That's the stream that makes him what he is. And I believe in it, I love it, and I really feel it beyond our lives.
And then it was my turn. Even I finally managed a hookup. Lisa Emery. We met in an acting class. Amazing actress and a wonderful person.
I fell in love with Josh. Do I say you or Josh? And then, of course, I started coming down here more and more frequently.
We got married, and a few years later, we had a kid, Zane.
After Zane was born, there was kind of a bond in the neighborhood. It was as though I was proving myself to set down roots. I loved the neighborhood because of how all the people were so different. I don't mean just different from me, they were different from each other, and they lived in such harmony. I wanted to bring my kid up in a place where he would know that there were all different ways of living and cultures.
At last, I had my own family. Lisa loved it here. 7th Street was our home. But something was bothering me. I have mixed feelings about raising Zane on that block. And I don't know, maybe it's similar to what you felt when I was there. But I wondered, has that crossed your mind at all about
Zane?
About Zane? Have you thought about that?
Of course it has crossed my mind. But now I can say I don't think it is what you may call a bad experience to grow up in that area. But that one has concerns about it as the direct parent, that's very clear to me, very clear. Because I had these concerns about you.
I wanted to be sure I was raising my little boy in the best place, whatever that is. I went to my street family. Maybe they could give me some clarity. So do you have any advice for me? I mean, I'm just trying...
With a kid?
Yeah.
Well, be a little bit careful these days, until this cracks and disappears. And
You know, this is a drug world, and that's none of my business.
There's more junk on the block now than we had 10 years ago, and it was pretty bad then.
It's more evil now because people kill for it.
Number one epidemic is cocaine out here, you know what I'm saying? And it's crack epidemic, you know, and it's just killing everybody, man.
I was walking by with my mother, and they was trying to kill this kid. They owed him drug money, and they just started shooting, like with pump shotguns and Uzis and shit. And they shot this lady, she fell, and I grabbed her baby and took him in the building.
I got cut up here on my back. A kid, 14-year-old kid. I said, hey, man, take it some other place. He pulled a straight razor, he got me.
If you can see, you can hear, you can see this is what's going on. This is not being hidden. Ain't nobody hiding this. It's out in the open.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's why you want to, you know, that's why people, they want to get up out of here, man.
I was in chaos. I had a new perspective in life, that of a father. And all I had to do was look at my own footage to realize that the street I was so eager to document was a dangerous place to raise a kid. I've never been a great decision maker, and now I was faced with a major issue. Do I stay or do I go? I kept shooting in some desperate hope that someone on 7th Street would help me decide. And someone did just that. One night in 1995, as I was walking home, someone ran ahead of me and stopped. I knew who it was. Everybody in the neighborhood knew who it was. He was the most powerful human being I'd ever known. The king, the drug lord of the alphabets. When I got home, I quickly put the camera on myself to make a record of what happened, in case I wasn't there to tell the story. If I was going to get done in, I at least wanted to make it part of the movie. He calls me over, and he said, I've been hearing a lot of stories about you. A lot of people have been coming and talking to me about you. And I've been looking for you. You gotta be very careful about this movie that you're making. You like 7th Street? You like it? You like outside, Zane?
If the drug dealers know you, and they've known you for years, they'll look out for you.
It's not gonna be good for you if this movie makes problems for me. Okay? I've had respect for you over the years. He's telling me this.
Clearly, he ran the block.
You want to talk about drugs? Is that what you want to talk about?
He said, I like you. Everybody knows this guy. I like you. I like your wife. I would hate for anything to happen.
When he threatened Josh, a lot of the kind of fear came back.
And he said, you know, you can't make this movie. He said, I respect you, I respect your wife. I'd hate for anything to happen. But if you keep shooting...
That was like a threat.
Don't show your face on the street. Don't do this, don't do that. And try to wiggle your way through.
No one interferes.
I'm going. This movie, this movie is not about you. It's not about trying to expose anything that you're doing.
Don't ask any questions.
But you don't have to do this. You're gonna take your butt to California.
It's about the people, and it's about the stories. He wouldn't let me even get that much out for about 3 minutes of him just not letting me interrupt.
The center of the drug deal in lower Manhattan is right over there.
If you know the right people, it'll take you about 15 seconds to get some.
You better not put that in.
No, God no.
Because they'd blow us up.
Oh yeah, sure.
Anyway, he basically threatened my life for making this movie. As long as I am small, I'll never wander off again. The grown-ups protect all the youngsters. It's best with them. So,
I cannot give you specific counsel. It is too difficult.
That's where I am. I was scared. I didn't want any harm done to my family. As painful as it was, I had to stop shooting. And suddenly, I had my answer. I had to leave the only place I ever called home. It was time to leave 7th Street. That was 6 years ago. It's now 2001, and I'm still here. The family's fine. And the neighborhood, well, it's gone through some changes. Back in '95, I did try to move, but I couldn't find another place that I could afford, and I felt that as long as I wasn't shooting the movie, my family was safe. Then in 1998, 7th Street was transformed again. The city launched a full-scale attack on the drug trade. It was a massive bust. They closed off a 5-block radius, and they took away the guy who had threatened me. Almost overnight, 7th Street and Alphabet City became a safe place to live and raise a family. But the safety posed a new threat to my neighborhood. The drug dealers are gone, but the real estate dealers have taken their place.
People are paying for a small studio, 15, 16, 1700 bucks a month.
Everybody got, evicted. There is no more empty buildings.
Look, in that building in 208, there's only 2 Puerto Ricans there. That building used to be a lot of Puerto Ricans and white and black.
I know it's gonna change. That's for sure. It's gonna change. Yeah.
No one could afford nothing here.
You won't believe what you're gonna see.
I just know that people said it was supposed to be the ghetto before, in this area, and now they cleaned it up.
I can do anything I want within a 10-block radius. They got nice restaurants here now.
Well, I've heard that this place wasn't very safe before, but now it's just perfect.
Are there any apartments available in your building?
They are invaders. They do not act like us. I think they come in and drink a mug of beer and say, well, I'm a hip, downtowner. When they're from Jersey, live in a 3-story house and the mother and father pay for it, they have no clue to what it is to live on the streets.
The people with money are going to kick people like me out of here.
Nowadays, you can't even sit in your own stoop without them harassing you and asking you for ID.
Looked worse, was better. Security cameras on a public street, come on. Yeah.
It's not so much the developers, right? I figure it's the system itself.
It's not about money, it's about exclusivity.
All this
Yeah.
All this thing, it makes me feel like I'm walking around a prison neighborhood, you know?
Right.
I hate it, you know? It distorts my mind, my frame of thinking, you know?
But you would know if you've been here since 1967. I'm sure that you noticed some of the same.
Yeah.
Salami.
When did you lose the apartment? When did that happen?
Oh, approximately about a year ago, or almost.
Did you get kicked out, or what happened?
I got kicked out. And they didn't give me enough time to go downtown, so I just settled with her because she wanted to renovate it. And
where have you been sleeping? Street?
And my animals. Died on me.
What's that?
My animals died on me.
Oh, man.
The yuppies realized this is a good neighborhood, and they bought it all. They literally ran us out of here because you couldn't afford it anymore. I used to live right down on 222 7th Street for 9 years, for $350 a month. Now the white yuppies, excuse my impression, bought up all this real estate. Now either you own it or you don't. You pay $15 a month or you don't. And I think that's sad, and I think it's rude. I mean, if you got Fifth Avenue, you got Jersey, if you got the Upper West Side, I mean, people like me and John gotta live somewhere. You're gonna run us all out of town?
Remember Merlin, the guy that used to live here? Merlin?
What's up, folks? Looking good.
It's all part of the world, you know, it's all part of the magic.
Looking for Merlin.
Yeah.
Merlin's dead, actually. Merlin died.
Take a guess at what you think 7th Street's going to be like in 2010.
It's going to be gorgeous, beautiful. I doubt if I'm going to be able to live here. Not the way things are going, you know?
Right.
Not the way things are going. I doubt it. It's nice to walk down the street and everyone knowing you. Your mom's always saying, hi, how you doing, Angel? Yeah, I miss that, you know what I mean?
Right.
And how are you? How's everything? How's your family? I don't have that anymore.
What he was going through wasn't really worth life. I mean, it wasn't life, but the last minute was really very sudden because his heart just gave out. I was with him. I just was the last person. I just gave him a wonderful kiss. And he smiled, you know?
I bought a building down the block for $7,500. 3 years later, I sold it for $60, all right? Only money.
I find it very hard to accept that he's no longer here. You know? I mean, in my mind, he's still alive. He's just in Florida. He's just been busy and he hasn't been able to call me.
The 7th Street of my childhood is gone. My street family, with all their beautiful eccentricities, have mostly vanished. And once again, my block has changed. I think Jackie was right. I think that you do learn a lot about the world by staying in the same place. If I have any advice to the new people on 7th Street, it would be to just go and sit on your stoop and see what happens. Just hang out and see who's here with you. Say hi. Have an adventure. I'm not the new kid on the block anymore. I stay here any longer, I'll be the old timer.
Is it still going? Yeah. What do you love about 7th Street?
You. I love you.
Yeah, but about 7th Street.
You live here.
Well, what do you still like about 7th Street?
I love mommy, I love you, and it's like this is our family, but also out on the street,
yeah,
like that's our family too.
You love 7th Street, right?
Yes.
Should that be the end of this, like a little cut bed?
Well, do you have another question?
Not really.
What did that?
Cut!